welcome back to Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom and the special version of the show that I've been calling Big Fish Side Dish. And if you are a regular listener, or even if you just pay any attention at all, you're also aware that for the last few months, we've started yet another segment, a special segment that we have taken to calling the Fretful Laowai Radio Hour with my good friend Kevin Geiger. Guess who's here, everybody? Hi, Kevin.
Hey, man. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Thanks for making the trek over to Big Fish HQ.
No worries. And actually, I'm glad you queued me up with the word trek because I've been using your podcast to keep me company on my treks to pick up my daughter from school.
You have, and you've been very nice about sharing that on the social media, which we appreciate, that you like the show.
My pleasure.
And we are enjoying some, so the ground rules, in case you are new, we've got a few probably newer folks listening this week. So we are enjoying some coffees, and we'll try to slurp quietly. But actually, I even have, normally I'm in full studio mode. I do have the windows open.
Just so we don't die of heat.
Yeah, I'm just being, let's see if we hear the background here a little bit. Just distant. It's just a little tiny bit.
Maybe you should explain how winter works for people who don't know how a Beijing winter works.
That's a great.
How cold it is outside.
We'll start there. Really briefly. So this show is pretty unedited. So unless something comes flying out of our mouths that jeopardizes our visa status, we're going to basically not cut this. But we do have an outline, and we're going to try to bring this one in about 45 minutes or so because of other, having a life and other commitments that we both have. So yeah, winter's here. Depending on the kind of building you live in, basically, I guess all buildings, it's centrally controlled heat. But then depending on how new or nice your building is, you have more or less control internally. I have some friends who are more like student friend, young English teachers, and they just have no control. They get what they get. And many of them are either dying from overheat or they're freezing.
Because it hasn't been turned on yet.
Right, because it doesn't work or theirs hasn't been fixed or it hasn't been turned on. And I'm fortunate, as are you, that we live in kind of nicer, buildings where...
We're currently roasting.
Well, you're roasting. With mine, I have, let me see, I've got 4 of it's hot water radiators, and those are really great. I mean, that is some of the nicest heat.
They work pretty well.
Some of the nicest heat you could ask for. And I have 4 of them in my place. I only have, they're shut off. That one here, and the 2 in the main room are shut off. In the bathroom, cracked open to like the 1 out of 5.
Yeah.
The one in the kitchen, same thing.
That's
barely cracked on. That's it. And then I've got my windows cracked open about 24/7 unless it's a bad polluted day.
Right.
So how about you? How's your home? Are you're
pretty
roasting?
Much exactly what
I would be roasting if I didn't do this. It would be unbearable.
Everything you described is exactly what we do. We've got the windows cracked open. We have half of the heaters turned off. The others are sort of at half speed. And because we're not paying for that heat, the cracked windows aren't really a problem.
You're not losing sleep. You don't have any like middle class guilt. Oh my God, there are people without heat in the county next door.
When you think about energy waste, maybe it's a problem. But that's just how it is. And of course, then you don't really dress in. Coming from the U.S., we dress in layers.
Right. Exactly.
Here, it's just 2 layers. It's just like you've got your big puffy coat,
right,
and then a t-shirt underneath because you just kind of go from like 0 to like 100.
Totally. You're wearing a dress shirt you're wearing like a summery dress shirt that you could be wearing. You could be wearing that in the summer.
I could be wearing that in the summer.
And I'm wearing a t-shirt as per my usual mode these days. So I'm sure this is great radio for people. So
but also
we have lots. This relates to like life in Beijing.
It relates to life in Beijing, and I was mentioning my treks to pick up my daughter. It's freezing cold.
It's super cold. That's the thing. People like my friends in LA are like, yeah, it's hot as hell here. We got our AC on. Well, yes. Guess what, brah? It ain't like that here. It's legit winter in China.
Right.
If we go outside without those big puffy coats, we run back inside because it's miserable.
But the podcasts keep me warm.
There you go.
And that's not just...
that's not just metaphorical happy talk.
No, not at all. But really, I walk fast. I try to get my cardio in, get my heart rate up.
Got to multitask. You got the 2 young kids, man.
Exactly. And get there right in time. Mm-hmm. But that's when I catch up on my podcast. And I really enjoyed the last How China Works, Who Pays?
Oh, awesome. Yeah, cool.
This was a great. I love all of them, and of course, I'm always, as you know, comparing notes and to my own experience. And so, in this case, this brought back a memory, a fond / painful memory of the first time that I paid for a family meal with my in-laws, or my soon-to-be in-laws.
Right. And you've got how big is Wynn's extended family?
It depends on how far out you
can kind of reach out.
But
easily.
In this case, this particular meal, well, I'll get to that in a second.
Okay, cool.
Leading up to it, though, when I started dating Wynn, and even before I started dating her, when I was just showing up as just like a colleague, I wouldn't be allowed to pay for anything. And this is in Taipei, so with her family in Taipei. I couldn't pay for anything, and I tried the techniques, and I always failed.
We talked about this on the How China. He's referencing the Who Pays, the How China Works episode number 30.
Yes, go back and listen to that one.
Yeah, but basically in that one, Ying Lee and I talk about basically that. What are the rules? Who pays? And my rule of thumb was, if you are the guest, I mean, it's not going to be you. They're just not going to let you freaking pay. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But then listen to the episode.
But then there's a certain point at which you're expected to pay. And I knew, first of all, the fact that I still attempted to pay, even though I had no chance, kind of endeared. I guess that's how I got to the point where we had an engagement lunch.
Gotcha. There you go. Exactly. That was part of the journey to lock and win down
exactly.
there. Exactly.
Yeah, and actually, on that note, I will say that, and this might sound sexist, but it won't be the first thing I've said that's sexist.
Well, to quote Spinal Tap, what's wrong with being sexy?
That's right.
Hey.
If when you're on a date, in terms of like who pays if you're on a date, always pay. Just a good rule of thumb. If you're on a date with a girl, a guy, doesn't matter. Just always pay. It'll work out in your benefit. There you go. So,
there's a couple jokes in there. I'm going to let those lie. I'm going to let you lie.
I'll just stop there.
Is Kevin trying to set me up to make sexual innuendo jokes, or should I? Let's keep on trucking. We got a big show here.
Exactly. So we get to the engagement lunch, and it was sort of like an open secret that this lunch is going to be where Kevin proposes to Wen in front of the entire family.
Okay, so everybody's there.
Everybody's there. Like everybody's there. There were about 30 people there, and we had it at the Taipei National Museum restaurant. They have this very fancy restaurant, private room. There were like 2 or 3 tables.
I know those kind of rooms. It's when there's the local VIPs or people doing a super fancy thing. If you got a dignitary, if there's like some big official who's visiting, that's the kind of place that you honor them with the private meal in the culturally significant setting. So that's the kind of place.
So we ordered, we had the whole, I mean, it was, multi-course, etc. When at one point went to use the restroom, and then when she came back into the room, everybody just like looked at her and looked at me like, okay, here they go. And then we did the proposal, and it was all sweet and tearful, and there were speeches, etc., etc. And then the meal was over. Yeah. And the bill came. And I dutifully said, let me get that. And nobody fought me.
Oh, wow.
Wen's father looked at me and said, thank you. And I looked at the bill, and I was like, okay.
It's like, can I have my allowance back?
It was close to $4,000 US.
What? Wait a minute. Okay, so I was not a math major, as we've established in previous. So 30 people, about 4,000. So about 100.
I think it was about 100
US,
per
about 100-ish US, and I mean,
this was in Taipei. So
even good food is reasonable relative to what you'd pay, like in some fancy like Beverly Hills. So that must have been this like feast.
It was, and again, the location was a big part of it. It's a nice place, yeah. But it was a great event, and I paid it, and they let me do it. Nobody tackled me on the way. Yeah. There wasn't any pushing or pulling, and it was really like, welcome to the family.
Yeah,
and
you're in at that point.
I knew I was in, and then afterwards, then they would also fight to have me not pay. So meals subsequent to that. We were back to the old kind of like,
that was when you apparently that's when you were supposed to pay.
It was like my initiation, basically.
Yeah. It's like, you've been offering all this time. It reminds me of a funny story, because once I was out in my old business partner and producing partner of 10 years, one of my best friends, super short version of the story is his parents were like retired, big time, like Hollywood people, very wealthy folks, and basically retired in Vegas because they loved the dinner, they loved going to shows, and had a gorgeous place out there. And we would all go out. They were kind of like a second family to me when I was in LA. That was the closest place for me to go and do holiday stuff. Yeah. And they were really great and generous, and they would always take us to amazing places. And there were times where, I would try to, when the bill came, we knew that Gary was going to pay for it, right. My buddy's dad. Yeah. But there were times where, like, coffees are more casual, where I would try to pay. And he was like, oh, don't do that. But we went to this really fancy place one time. It was amazing. and he was at the head of the table, and I was on one side and beside him. And the check came, and he pulls, and he does it, and he it became kind of a thing with us.
Right.
Where I'd pull it out and he like waved me away. And I just sat there. I didn't move. And I just smiled. And he looked at me and he said, "You aren't reaching for that wallet, I see." I was like, because I'm not even going to front, Gary. I can't touch this. If I need to pay for myself, I'm happy to. But I cannot touch. Because we were at some place that was like, probably $300 a person. And there were like 8 of us or something. Like,
you got to be ready to cover it, right?
Well, I could cover me. But I couldn't. There was no reason I would have been expected to pick up the bill. But like, I wasn't even going to play. I'm like, no, I'm just sitting there. My wallet's like tucked away wherever it is,
It's fascinating. I mean, as many of the permutations you talked about on that episode here in China and the rules being, of course, different in the West, there are these little subtleties and things in the West that can be quite interesting.
Totally.
But,
and he thought that was funny. I mean,
yeah, I'll bet he did.
He appreciated the honesty. He knew it's like, yeah,
it's like, come on, player.
He's like, what you got. Let's see. That would have been like my $4,000 bill, except it's 8 of us or something, and I'm not getting any nookie out of it. I'm not getting a wife.
So, speaking of nookie and wait a minute.
Speaking of your wife.
Anyway,
wow.
So
sorry, Wen.
No, I was going to go in a more professional direction.
Oh wow.
But then somehow we went off there.
Well, welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. She just received an award from CCTV for art direction on a VR project that I've been consulting on, and she's been art directing on, hence the award.
I saw the photos, and I'm connected with her as well, but I saw you, of course, posting just the awesome photos.
Beautiful husband.
Dude,
yes.
It looked really impressive. What's the project?
It was it's a project that is based on the Mogao Caves in Dunhuang.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, they're and this is one of the caves that's sealed. It's inaccessible. So this is one that you wouldn't be in.
Yeah.
Hence the VR treatment. So they got
I see.
They got laser scan of the geometry. They have super high resolution photographs of the textures, etc. Well, they didn't let them in. This was in a database already. So you can actually get access to this and then do what you want with it. So this is one of like hundreds of projects on these caves,
right.
But it's one of the better ones.
Cool.
hence the award, etc. And they did a more fanciful treatment where the fairies come to life from the wall, and there's this mural of the 500 bandits, who have their eyes plucked out and are begging Buddha for forgiveness. And they had a big flip book comes up from the floor that has these characters coming to life, etc. And it was pretty cool. And as you know, with virtual reality, you're thinking psychologically about how to influence people to do things. So you can't really direct them to look here or go there. People are free to let their attention wander.
You have to try to manage that eye trace to your storytelling advantage, but you can't just grab somebody's head and move it around.
Yes. Yeah. So her responsibilities as art director, and of course, when she has an independent film background,
right,
and was director of development at Disney here in China. So she's done a lot of things, but this was new territory, and she ended up assuming more and more of the director role as the director of the project got busier on some other things. So the visual aspect she was dealing with very quickly, sloughed into the psychological considerations that I mentioned. So she was dealing with all of that, and I was doing my best to help advise on that based on my own experience. So she gets this surprise notice that there's this award. CCTV is trying to, I guess, freshen themselves up, rebrand a little bit by supporting new media, mobile. And mobile's not exactly new, but VR, etc. And the awards at this ceremony were for this. So. Basically, the upshot is that she almost didn't go.
Okay.
Because, and I think this is part of the new era we live in where the control over media, et cetera, is tightening. There were so many rehearsals.
Practices
and deck revisions of because she had to do a 10-minute presentation on the project, get the award, et cetera.
Right.
Leading up to the thing that she was losing her mind.
It wasn't just put on your nice clothes and show up at the thing.
Which many of these things have been in the past when I've been to some events like that. Just show up, get your thing, give a little talk,
It's ultra stage managed now.
This was super tight, and mainly because the leaders of CCTV were going to be there, etc. There were dress rehearsals, and she was kind of losing it. And then, at the very end, just before the ceremony, the Golden Horse Awards happened. And all of the controversy surrounding the Golden...
Try to give us the Keep Our Visas Intact version of why that's significant, because some people aren't going to try. What are they? Why is that significant?
The Golden Horse Awards are... it's basically like the Oscars in Taipei, right? It's like the Taiwanese Oscars. And there are many films there from mainland China and from Taiwan in competition and getting awards. And so this particular year, some comments were made on the stage that weren't looked upon too kindly by mainland China or the mainland Chinese who were there in the room, right?
Yeah. You had big talent who were mainland Chinese folks that weren't down with some of the pro.
It led to some uncomfortable moments on the stage, at the event, afterwards, etc. So, my wife was asked, because she's from Taiwan,
Taiwanese, right.
by the organizers, so you're going to be cool, right? I mean, in a nutshell, and she's like, yes, I'm going to be cool. I mean, her father's KMT, right? So he's pretty like pro China, pro mainland China. So she's like, yeah, don't worry, everything's fine. But they were really concerned then about the text and what are you going to say? And
right.
blah, blah, blah. And at that point, she's dealt with that type of thing before, but she was like, oh God, if there's any more of this, I'm a mother, I'm working.
Right.
But the event turned out to be fantastic.
That's awesome.
As you
the photos looked great.
She went, and there was like, I was staying at home watching Emma, our infant daughter, and, doing daddy daycare. And I just saw the photos coming back. I was like, hey, good thing you went. This looks pretty cool. And she said, it was really, really great.
That looks awesome.
And the people there were super nice, and the leaders were very nice and actually very knowledgeable about VR. Like, surprisingly, like the questions they were asking were very informed, etc. Yeah. So it's interesting because in terms of professional arcs, she's getting back on her feet in terms of stuff in mainland China.
Right.
While I am starting to get a foot out of mainland China.
Interesting.
And I'm still involved, like I mentioned, with VR projects here and so forth. And I'll be teaching at the Beijing Film Academy a new class this spring in virtual reality.
They have their new VR. Yeah. Is it even a new campus? Is it not?
Is
it at the Haidian? Or
there's an immersive media department that I actually helped start.
Right.
And then because of the birth of our second child, I stepped away from that. I'm coming back in now, not into that department, but back to the animation department.
Okay.
Where it was my home. I came there like in 2007, 8, and they're doing a class within that department. So I'll be doing that. But to my point about stepping out of China, I've been putting more attention into things that don't require me to be here or really anywhere particular.
Oh, yeah. I think I know some of those things.
Yeah. So, some of that's consulting, right? Money on the barrel for consulting on a person's pitch or what have you, or a script.
Right.
And that person might be an American, or it might be somebody from Singapore. And more close to home are the children's books I've been doing.
Exactly.
So I had one book that came out. It's called The Early Bird Gets the Worm. Very creative title. But there's a little twist there. They become good friends. And that was my first book about a year ago. And then my second book just came out, Bonnie Bunny's Baby Brother.
And it's a lot of fun. And I say this is a middle-aged guy. I happily bought my copy.
Thank you for your support. And the comments you left online are appreciated.
Because, Kevin, it's one thing to say, I think people don't. Obviously, being an animator, some people, I think in this day and age, maybe I'm mistaken, I can't speak for what everybody thinks, but there's such an emphasis when you see behind the scenes about making big animated projects. You see artists, but you see them drowning in computer gear. I think people lose touch with I know that it's easy for me to lose touch with this, and I know better. It's easy. The people doing the animation, they're artists. They have a hand. They could pick up a pen or pencil or paintbrush and do a thing on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And you're that guy. You started in that world as well as, the computer stuff you developed along with it because of your age.
And then I got away from it as an executive.
But you have the hand. You are an artist.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to get that back. When I was working at Disney as VP of development, I really got away from having my hand in it.
Right.
And doing something that was personal. So it's nice actually that after the kids came and I kind of dialed it back and have been working from home and more personal stuff to get my hands in it and also to direct the work towards the kids. So this book was actually recommended. Wen is my muse. She'll say, hey, why don't you do a book to help Claire, our oldest, who's now 3.5, deal with the fact that she's got a sibling coming.
And Emma is how old now?
Emma now is 10 months.
Okay.
But when I started working on this book, it was actually at the very end of last year. Mm-hmm. So Wen was pregnant.
Oh, yeah. Emma was
so it was like last December.
Mm-hmm.
I was working on this. And I was in a mad rush to get the first version done before February because that's when she was due. And I knew that just life
You wanted to set it up for Claire ahead of time.
Set it up for Claire, and also because life was going to be over for at least a few months.
Exactly. Which it was. Which it had been.
Exactly. So I got the first version done in time. And Claire, who was my first and most important critic / fan, loved it.
Yeah,
right?
that's
this
good.
Was great. And it was called at the time Betty Bunny's baby brother.
Okay.
And we didn't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl, but it just kind of, I like the alliteration, the B's and so forth. And
okay.
Of course, Emma came out, she's a girl, which is great. But she had every indication of like, people were always like in China, they'll say, oh, your stomach is this shape.
This is
so
going to be a boy.
It's a boy or,
she's carrying like this,
right.
and there's this little bump here. That means blah, blah.
And even after we found out it was a girl, we couldn't find that out here, that Emma was a girl. They won't tell you. Right. In mainland China, we went to Taiwan and found out there.
Oh yeah. There's a whole history we'll leave for people to search why that is about why they won't tell you the sex.
But when we told Wen's grandmother that it was a girl, she said, "Oh, rub this cream on your stomach and then it will be a boy." And it's like, Grandma, it doesn't work that way. But she's completely convinced.
Wait, they told you it was a girl and you rubbed the cream and you got
No, the hospital told us, okay, it's going to be a girl. Yeah. And then we were talking to Wen's grandmother. Mm-hmm. We said, "Oh, so it's a girl," and the grandmother really wanted a boy, and she, she's old enough. This is Wen's grandmother.
Okay,
so she's pretty old. She's like 90, and she's like, "Well, if you rub this cream, this ointment on your stomach, it will become a boy." And we're trying to explain to her it just doesn't really work that way, but she's convinced.
But maybe it's a nice cream.
Exactly, and then Emma came out, and I don't know if she knows if Emma is a boy or a girl, but
you haven't.
Actually, the funny thing, because she's 90, so.
Oh, got it. Okay. Right.
She asked me who I was the last time we visited.
There you go.
I was like,
so probably she might have forgotten that conversation.
Exactly. But
just let her enjoy her dotage.
Yeah. And, but anyway, so did the book. The first draft, and then during the summer, just got feedback. I circulated to friends, professional colleagues, etc.
Sure.
Did the final version.
I didn't see it, so I know where we stand.
Yeah, no. This is actually kind of before we were really as tight as we are now. So
that's fine. I'm not judging.
I gave it to people who had kids. That was my criteria. Anyway, I know you could be offended. It really was personal. Actually, I skipped you.
Damn, son, I was letting you off the hook. All right. I appreciate that. I was like your final. You valued my opinion so highly that you just, here's what it is. Please rate and review.
You're the first person to write a review for it.
Am I?
That's
sweet.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good.
Just came out. Just in time for the holidays, as they say.
Lucky you.
And, but it took this long from February to now to get the final draft done just because of, again, 2 kids and all hell breaking loose. But this is something that really I'm doing through a shingle called Pee Wee Frog.
That's your children's book thing.
I've got 2 more that are done. That are going to come out in tandem. One is related to the alphabet. The other is related to numbers. They're going to be like a little.
Will I learn something when I read?
I hope so. I hope.
Me too. I'm not good with math. We've established that on the show.
I'm going to throw those out in around Chinese.
It's kind of a running gag on how China works.
Exactly.
The calculator for like some pretty basic stuff. I'm like, if it's not powers of 10, if powers of 10, I'm wicked. Like I'm a wizard with.
Then you'll love the one book is called 10.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow, it's like you wrote it for me.
And the other book's called O is for Ocean. So
okay,
yeah. But those will be out. So I'm really making a go at this, and right now I'm not getting rich off it by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm putting the energy into something that doesn't require me to be here. And this, I think, is the macro point of what we wanted to talk about
exactly,
today, is what I actually, my friend called it this. I take credit for it. I shouldn't take credit for it. Patrick Flannery, my neighbor.
Oh, yeah,
said,
Patrick, who we're trying to get on Big Fish. We just got to coordinate
and
time.
He's doing stuff over at CRI. He called it the expat exit. Or I guess you could call it exit. But there's been a lot of activity lately. This is where the fretful part, I guess, or fretful Laowai comes back to the fore.
Yeah.
Foreigners, Laowai, who came here with certain expectations, hopes, dreams. Some people just maybe for the last year or 2, others 10 years or more. Various levels of investment in terms of personal, professional, wives or kids or what have you.
Sure.
And are just realizing that the long game really isn't set up for them. Right? Yeah. And that's okay, but maybe we're under the assumption or we're even lured in or told that, hey, you do this, especially make these sacrifices, that things will pay off for you in the long run, you'll make relationships, blah, blah. And things are changing, and China is becoming more for the Chinese, which I think is a good thing.
Right.
But a lot of Laowai,
pretty inevitable and pretty understandable and everything else.
All of that. And one of my friends said, well, we're really just becoming more like regular immigrants. We're no longer special anymore, like the foreign expert, right, who is revered and almost like too much.
Sure, exactly. It's kind of balancing out to where if you are truly an expert,
it's like, okay, we'll use
lauded
you for
badass,
this,
then you have your slot. But if you're not that, then you don't really get to play.
And know your place and all of that. Yeah. And there have been articles written about this where you've everybody from like a person who's trying to, crack the market with an IT service. Yeah. And good luck being a foreigner now trying to be involved in China's IT infrastructure. You have the same chance as Chinese being involved in the U.S.'s IT infrastructure. Down to like artists who, there's one artist from L.A. who came here and he was making good money selling paintings to government officials and executives. And now that market dried up. Those people aren't buying that stuff for big lavish gifts because it's not looked upon kindly anymore. So he's back in LA. And for myself, my wife and I, it's not just foreigners. There's been a big media shakeup, right? Yeah. There's been the tightening of control around the media, but also economically with everything that's going on with the anti-corruption campaign and just how money's getting tighter. And even when people have money, it's harder to move it, to transfer it.
Yeah. I've noticed even on a small personal level, it's hard to deal with this stuff.
It's really tricky. And so projects are taking the hit, getting canceled, and people are ending up being out of work, especially in my profession in visual effects animation. Right. I have a number of colleagues who, a few of them are saying, I'm going back to the U.S. because I don't have any more work right now, or I did the work and I didn't get paid. I'm 3 months in arrears, and I don't know if and when I'm going to get it. So I think I'm just going to go back and where it's more sane and knowable,
where there's rule law.
Yeah.
was that my loud voice? Just checking.
Well, there's real. I mean, there's real law, but the laws here are not necessarily
not in our favor,
in your favor, or even applicable. There's some people here who this isn't exactly legal, who might be here working on a contract that was written in Hong Kong, but then they're working here, and it's not really legal. Sure. So if Chinese employees, for example, take an action against the employer because they haven't paid, that person can't really join in on that or do any coattails because they may, if they are involved, they might get busted. And here, if your employer is breaking the law, like not filing, like if they're withholding taxes. One thing I found out, not directly, thank God, but if your employer is withholding taxes from and you think, hey, taxes have been withheld. If they haven't actually, if they haven't paid it, you get in trouble.
Right, of course.
They will come to you and say, you owe this. The penalties, the back taxes come to you as the individual, not necessarily to your company, to that company. Or that company might get charged, but then they find some way to make that go away.
Right.
So for all of these various reasons, regulatory, taxes, etc., there's this exodus of expats now, right? The Laowai diaspora from China. And so for me, it's not quite that bad. I've had to change my game. We talked about this in previous episodes. But
it's always changing too. So if you've had an update that you want to share,
one thing,
because I've got a bunch of updates, and you'll be feeding back on some of my updates.
I want to get to your stuff too.
Oh no, I'm not rushing you.
It's infinitely more interesting than what I have to say. But last time we did big fish. Like big fish.
Like the regular, the original interview.
Not the main dish.
Yeah, the main, yeah.
And I was talking about how, I was for example, with Magic Dumpling, I said I've shifted myself from CEO to CTO.
Exactly.
And I'm backgrounding myself.
Because there's your wife who's Taiwanese, and then your mainland Chinese part is the third partner, and he's the CEO. And in fact, he's mainland guy is an important thing. Right.
And it is still, but I also said during that episode that you really need to have your trusted Chinese colleagues to make sense of it all. Right. What's happening now is when your trusted Chinese colleagues are throwing up their hands and going, we don't know what the fuck is going on. Then stuff is really serious. It's like, hey, so what's happening? We don't know. When is it? Nobody knows. Or they do know and it's bad. Like they say, you know what? 2019 is going to be worse than 2018, according to what everybody's saying. So
is that what you're kind of hearing on the ground?
That's what I'm hearing.
Anecdotal?
I was just at it's all anecdotal.
That's the same thing.
But I was just at a brunch with some fairly well-known Chinese film talent crew. directors, art directors, etc. And they were all talking about this and just how things are getting. I mean, for them as well, right?
Yeah.
So if it's not like everything's fine for the Chinese, but like bad for foreigners.
No, it's
tough all over.
Question marks for everybody.
And because foreigners operate in the margins, and previously the margins could be pretty fat, right? You could live fat in the margins, right? But those margins are getting leaner and tighter. Yeah. So, hence me trying to do, if I can pick up work here, which I still do, freelance, I do that. Anything where I'm using my own dime, I'm no longer developing stuff for China. I used to use my own money, my own time to develop stuff for the China 100%. Market.
Yeah.
That's over.
Yeah. Me too.
It's now for like a global market or for the U.S. But using the resources here, because you can do things here cheaper and faster.
Sure.
So you can still leverage on that.
And there's a lot of crazy talented people who want to play and do things.
Enormously talented. Yeah, so I'm not poo-poo. I mean, there's still stuff to be done here and work.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think you're on a limb that you need a hand. I'm just, we talk about this offline. It's like the talent here and the will to do cool stuff is really massive among the local folks,
and I think not well understood even in the West.
It's really not. And I think that's why I'm kind of giving it a little extra highlight. Because
people judge based on what they see on TV and on film, but there's a lot of talent that they either don't work at the big companies,
they're either not in the studio system here,
and they're doing great stuff that's kind of just bubbling, beneath the surface. And because of the control here, a lot of times that stuff that grassroots underground of media doesn't get up the way it might in the West.
Right. Yeah, because distribution is so tight.
Yeah. And there's no real kind of like alternative market here that is legit.
Yeah, you don't really have much in the way of art house screens, things like that. There's not the market for it. It's too spread out. It exists, but it exists online.
Exactly.
You can't put those people in the same physical building.
Yeah, exactly. I've been in film festivals where I've seen some of those works and they get just soundly rejected. But it's like, this was a fantastic piece. But we can't show that, right? Because there's some issue in it that's considered too political or topical or sexual or something.
It's like in the 50s. What do you mean their mom and dad are in the same bed? Well,
So anyway, so that's what I've been doing is just kind of like making sure that those other irons in the fire are in a fire that's outside of mainland China.
So your development's all outside the mainland as well.
Well, I mean, I'm doing it here, but
I mean, the projects are for outside the mainland.
Exactly.
So do you feel like you're going to have this split existence for a while, where you have a base here? Yet you're also you're mentally co-located.
Yes.
You're here physically.
Yes.
And you're developing as you sit in your home in Beijing or run around.
Yes.
But the stuff is for the outside world, and you're going to have to do some outside world traveling to do the thing.
Yes. And then this indeed there will be this limbo period because, as I mentioned, stuff that my wife is doing here is taking.
Yeah, she's heavily invested in,
and that's fine. So because I can
getting recognition for it, so
and money. So I mean, she actually is being paid, which is cool. So there's rent.
I hear that's great. I had a conversation with a local producer who, owes me. Owes me an amount of money that would make people say, I could have bought that dinner for you. And had some change.
It's good when you can cover the rent.
I could have covered that dinner.
And our kids, their lives are here, but we look at where do we want them to go to grade school? Is it going to be mainland China? Is it going to be in Taiwan?
Because you don't plan to have them tracked on. We talked about this last time, but you don't want them on that Gaokao.
They're not going to be. They're not going to be. Of course, I never say never, but they're probably not going to be in a Chinese public school in grade school. Right now in preschool, yes.
Sure.
Claire's in international.
Because it's preschool. It's supposed to be art classes and play well with other people.
Claire's in a Chinese international kindergarten. It's really good.
Yeah.
But we look at, even though we kind of play it year by year here, we do have the 5-year outlook in terms of where our vector is, right?
Yeah.
The target. Yeah. With the kids and then, of course, professionally. And Taiwan is flat in terms of an industry. There's not a lot going on there. I know people there was a guy I know who worked at Wanda. And Wanda's like pretty militant, right? I mean, the way that they operate, and they actually made him cut off his ponytail when he went there because it was considered not to code. And I mean,
so this man bud would not pass.
And he quit after a year because he just couldn't take it, and then he went back. He's back again.
Okay.
And I took this as a sign that Taiwan must really be dead.
Oh, he's from Taiwan. Is he back at Wanda?
Yeah. He's from Taiwan. So if you quit, they cut off your ponytail.
Wow.
You say, okay, finally I've had it, and then you come back. That's a sign that
Well, I understand it's a relatively small place. I mean, what's the population of all of Taiwan? Is
it 20 million?
It's like 18, 20 million people, maybe?
It's not a lot.
It's like not
Beijing.
even as big as Beijing.
No.
So I know people in the States who were, before I really knew China, I mean, to the degree that I know now, which is still to say like a fraction. But the point is, before I was clear about everything,
right.
I mean, so when I'm from Taiwan, like, oh, okay. At the time, I just thought, well, okay, so you're part of China, and so them trying to explain, well, yeah, but it doesn't. The back and forth doesn't work the same. Different tastes and standards, and I mean, besides the obvious political issues. Just the facts of the industries are really there's overlap, but there's overlap at a certain level,
right?
I'll
share with you. I think I can say this. That when you're talking about, of course, Taiwan and mainland China. You notice I say mainland China. This was something I was, because early on I knew, okay, there are certain ways you don't refer to Taiwan as a country, etc. It's a territory. But I would say Taiwan and China. And then one of my friends, actually my eventual wife said, actually, it's more correct to say Taiwan and mainland China.
Exactly.
Because Taiwan and China makes it sound like two separate countries.
Right.
Even though you're not saying that literally, it's
Understood.
kind of, so it's like mainland China. And it almost seemed the opposite anyway. But I was like, okay, if people say it this way, all right, got it. But we're looking at just the ecosystem of our lives, personally and professionally, and spreading our wings. And you're doing the same thing, right? You've got I mean, not the same thing, of course, but you're looking at the same scenario at the macro level, but you've got a lot of different cool stuff going on.
Well, yeah, there are a lot of different irons in the fire to continue that idea. So one is going back to LA to do this film project, and that's a result of what we've been talking about. So without me rehashing all my stuff that I've kind of indicated here, and there are bits and pieces that popped up in conversations that people are like real completists somehow for Brendan Davis World of Podcasts. You've heard me say this in different ways. And if not, the nutshell is that because of things that you're saying, or what you're saying reflects this. The fact is that those niches here, I mean, I didn't come here to produce movies in China. I came here to have actually really to immerse myself in culture more than I even have been able to do. And I wanted to be more more studying the language, right? And to become more fluent and things like that, which I really have not. I put in the work for about a year, but I haven't, not recently, right? But I really wanted it to be change of pace, become more future ready
and looking for the world, right?
And looking for opportunities, but not thinking that I wanted to necessarily. It's basically whatever my unique skills and perspectives are that can interface. That's where I'll fit in here. But I didn't have a real preconceived notion, having dealt with China and been back and forth before I made the move. So.
And isn't it different? Like being back and forth, it kind of prepares you, but it does. Diving
until it's like, oh, I bought a one-way ticket, and I saved enough money that I could buy that ticket out. But yeah, when you're here, when you're like on a lease, and it's like, no, I'm here. It's tricky, and also because I'm in a business visa, so I don't work here. I mean, I do business here. I work and put deals together and do projects, and that's a whole tricky thing with managing the money flow to stay legit in all those ways. But bottom line is, I can go at any time. I'm not under contract, is my point. Yeah. I have a lease. You have to deal with that. But bottom line is, I have been finding myself putting all of my own creative efforts into like writing a TV thing that I've been working on and off forever that is set for, would shoot in LA. There is a big China theme to it, ironically. But
was that intentional or did that just come about?
It developed. It was intentional, but it's not the dominant theme. But in the pilot, it's sort of hinted at, and there's some Chinese elements.
So it's like a subtext.
And they have to take a trip to do a business thing. But actually, if this was to become a series, magically it becomes a main driver.
Yes.
And it's actually, that's actually a little bit of the Trojan horse, is it becomes, so I'm excited to put more time into this. And I've had a lot of great feedback on this script. And some constructive criticisms, a nice way to say, change this, what the hell's that? But, from some real respected writer friends.
Criticism's good.
Some real respected writer friends.
It's painful, but it's useful.
Look, I've got two friends who listen to the show. Steve Barr, who's a very respected writer and development guy, and my friend Matt Arnold just sold, he actually is doing a series for NBC. It was just in the trades last week that he is writing and exec producing a show from this top 10 podcast called The Black Tapes. He's doing this. It's this fictionalized podcast. It's a top podcast. He's doing a show for NBC. It just announced.
Those are awesome people to have looking at your stuff.
And he gave me some. He gave me some great. I mean, he gave me awesome notes about this.
I don't want to derail you, but I want to jump in here just for 1 second, because one thing I've noticed throughout my work in development, whether it was independent or at Disney here or as a consultant, is that many people here, especially the higher up you get, directors, executives, don't take notes or criticism of a script or a content well, or don't want to put themselves in a situation where they even receive it. Like you talk about, let's have a test screening. No, it's okay. And it's like, you know what? It's better to find out now that you have certain issues when you can still work them out than when you're on opening weekend and it's like, it's just not resonating with the audience.
Well, look, and I don't mean to put his name out too much or trade on this one friend, but you got a friend who's sold 2 and now 3 series to NBC that he created. Maybe I'll listen to what he's got to say. Maybe he's got some. Maybe he can help me make my script better. Yeah. Maybe, possibly. And my buddy Steve, who helped me develop it just for the longest time, he's been involved on and off. Checking in on ideas.
Those sounding boards are really important.
It's the best. And so I really want to put. So creatively, that's been my focus. I'm mentioning this pilot so much, which I didn't even talk to you in our pregame. You only see it on my. We have our bullet points.
That's right. I don't know where you're going next.
So I know it's crazy. It's crazy. We are going to 2:45, by the way, because you talked for 4 minutes.
So, all right. Sorry.
I gotta get. That's okay. I love you, buddy. No, I'm glad you're here, but I gotta get my licks in here too.
So, Alex, if you're listening, actually, you'll hear
Alex?
this after. Alex is the guy I'm meeting. At
Alex
3.
is your buddy.
So, my buddy. So, you'll be listening to this after I was late, but this is why. Anyway. This
is why. Well, okay. Well, we'll try to split the difference. I'll try to land the plane here in 15, 20 minutes. 15, 18 minutes.
It's fine.
So, bottom line is that that's my main creative thing, like personally, right? Because I've always. Writing was my primary focus back in film school, back since literally the late 80s. Writer, director, producer in that order. Yeah. That's been my focus. It ended up flipping around because of life. And, good problem to have.
Yes.
Developing producing skills, being able to do it, being able to work on all these projects and a few that, people have seen and heard. That's been great. That's been awesome.
And a good flip
That's why I have a life.
Reinvigorate you,
That's why I have a career. Yes. But the bottom line is that really want to focus back on the writing part. And so putting a lot of time into that, very happy with it. And meanwhile, my buddy, I won't say too much right now in the details, just because you kind of want to take the magic out before things done.
Right.
But my buddy who's came back to love for movies kind of later in life, we're the same age, but basically had a very successful business and tech and VC career and very prominent kind of guy in his world. Also, went to film school in his early 30s because, damn it, he wanted to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, he spent about the last 10 years really developing his writing craft. He's had a few screenplays, few feature screenplays that a lot of development work in, a lot of feedback. He's worked with professionals developing it besides me. And he's won a few awards now for his writing. So we have a lot of pieces of the puzzle behind this one big feature, and it's actually set in the world of fashion in Paris. Okay. Cool. And the female lead is Chinese, but it's not a co-pro. When I let it be a co-pro, that's a whole other story. Not a co-pro, right? It's a total Western independent production. Yeah. But there are a lot of pieces of the puzzle already committed or interested. Yeah. A lot of partners who've given different levels of commits from hard to soft, but a lot of energy behind this project. So basically, to prove him as a new director, we're making a short. So we're making a short. We're shooting in January. So I'm going back to LA.
And when are you trying to deliver that?
We're going to go back and we're going to make the short. We were going to shoot in mid-January because the holidays are killing us. Like SAG-AFTRA is closed next week. So getting and permit office is closed.
Back for Chinese New Year, or is that not affecting you?
No. She's the actress for the short. So we've cast the two lead. It's a middle-aged French guy. And a younger Chinese female who's like a protege type as a designer.
You would never see that in Paris.
Totally never see this, right? I know, totally. It's like, what are you talking about? So the short film is different. So basically, to get the feature made, we're making the short as a proof of concept and also to validate the director. So, but no, she lives in the U.S. She lives in the U.S.
Okay.
But she's from here. She's from Tianjin. But she's lived in the U.S. now for, I think, 10 years. So, bottom line is we're going back to make it. We're going to shoot it in later January. Then, if the stars align, we are going to Paris.
Dude.
For Paris Fashion Week. Right here, bam. To be able, me and the writer-director / executive producer, to go, he wants me to be fully immersed in the world of fashion as he is, and to know it. And so borrowing friends and favors and pulling strings, and, there's some bread will be caught up, but basically going to the shows.
Awesome.
Front,
you should tell people you're a designer, because most of them actually dress like you're dressed right now.
They can pull it off.
It's like, oh, that's the guy.
You see the pictures from the front row of the shows, and there's like it's like people that is this like a seat filler? They pulled out the line from Starbucks and just kind of like randomly. But so going to the shows and meeting people, and also scouting, and dealing with like the Film France people who run the film office. So basically going to have the meeting. So while the short is in post in LA, we're gonna be going to Paris Fashion Week the end of February.
That's gonna be an intense
March.
week.
It's actually almost 2 weeks. It's close to 2 weeks, and we're gonna be there probably about 2.5, 3 weeks. So there's gonna be meetings. We're scout locations. We would shoot exteriors in Paris, and hopefully they've got the fires put out by then. But we'd be shooting exteriors in Paris, and then there's stages 20, 30 minutes out of the city that are like where you do for the interiors, because Film France has a 30% super generous rebate.
Ooh, high five.
High five. 30% rebate, super generous, and then they find other ways to sweeten it. I think they help you, whether it's like police foreclosures is at a discount, and they find other ways to sweeten it. So it makes it to where it's not like, oh, Ferris, you shooting there, that's fancy. Well, it's nice, but it's more affordable than if I tried to do it in Encino and fake it for Paris.
And for anybody who's listening who maybe thinks, oh, this sounds like a cash cow business, I mean, this just makes it possible, right? Like nobody's getting rich on this.
It'd be impossible otherwise. Yeah. And if you put in, and if you, it's funny you say that, because I was joking with somebody the other day and talking about basically the little bits that we carve out for ourselves while making the film. And it's like, okay, if you understood like the amount of hours and time.
Yeah.
If we're lucky,
minimum wage.
Maybe it's minimum wage. I mean, we're probably making $5 an hour for the amount of time we put into it. But I mean, not complaining, because on the whole, it's like if you're going to be fully immersed, be immersed in something that's awesome and you love, right? Yeah. So I'm super excited and also helping my buddy with his dream, frankly, not to be completely seriously, not to be corny or at all overly cheesy or sentimental. It's so great to get to see him do this, because I've really high this. I'm not trying to do PR for it right now. We're gonna do a Kickstarter where I'm gonna handle that, but really sincerely, that he is ready for this, man. I mean, if anybody's ever been ready, I don't want to jinx this, but if anybody's ever been ready, and plus, I've got like the rock star young cinematographer is our guy.
Yeah.
I've got a really killer, like on fire, like co-producer, junior producer she's just like losing sleep to do, make it work. We've got this awesome little team we're making for the short. And so we're surrounding him where it's like, okay, the guardrails and the padding is like everywhere. You really have to focus on the creative and the writing and the talking to actors. It's like, we're going to handle the rest, write the checks, show up on set, know what you want to see. That's good. That's bad. If it's not good, let's change it. Here's what I want to see. The rest of it, we're going to handle, got this amazing editor. I don't want to brag on him too much. Screw it. I'm going to brag without dropping his name.
Brag away.
All right. So the guy, I'm not going to say his name, but
sure you're going to.
No, I'm not actually, because I don't want to jinx it. But okay, so think of some of the absolute most just kick ass, and their movies totally different than these movies I'm about to name drop. But think of the most kick ass trailers you've seen the last couple of years. It's like Thor 2, where they drop the Zeppelin.
Yeah.
There's the Thor 2, the later Avengers,
But you're not going to do like, in a world
comes a girl with a dream. Yeah. This is that guy. He's a filmmaker himself, but he's Marvel's, he's their trailer. He's that guy.
Yeah.
And he's a former student of mine, which is hilarious.
Awesome.
I mean, I can't take any
credit. We're not
going
to do a fourth high five, because that'd be too much.
We're not. But he's the guy that if he has availability, hopefully he's going to cut the short. I mean, we would absolutely lock him into the. I'm getting way ahead. I'm just saying, if he wants to do, if he'll commit now to doing a feature, then I'll lock his ass down. But the point is, it's that kind of people that we're going to have make this thing. My cinematographer, Naeem Sarafi, who I will name check, is. He has done a ton of he's done tons of shorts and a lot of commercials. He's done a few independent features, but with recognizable talent. he went through this fellowship program with ASC, the Cinematographers Society. And he's in the guild as the cinematographer, he's in as a DP. And he is their poster boy, the December, January issue of American Cinematographer. He's the guy in the full page or double page spread of like, here's what, it's a single page, it's a full page spread of, he's like the rock star. That's him. That's my cinematographer.
How can you possibly fail then?
Dude,
this is you've got to stack for success.
By talking about it before it's happened like this, that's how we fuck it up. That's how we totally screw the pooch. But so going back to make that.
Well, that's where you go say break a leg, right?
Break a leg, exactly. And people don't know. You don't wish people good luck in the entertainment. That's actually bad luck. Break a leg.
I hope it fails.
Don't say that. That could be literal, dude. That could be literal. So basically.
Sorry, I went too far.
So here's what sounds like my fancy life. I'm going to tick off this movie stuff, and then we got some podcasty stuff to talk about, and then you got to get out of here to meet your buddy. So basically, the plan is go back to LA maybe into next week. It's floating around. It may be like 8-9 days. I was on the call. That's the call when you walked in the door. That was the call. That good news is this. Bad news is tickets because holidays. It's like I may literally need to go a day or two before January 1 now.
I'm lucky you didn't just bowl me over and run down to the airport.
Like run to the airport, right? I'm not quite that local yet. I'm not going to go quite that. Oh, we leave now? Great. That's another cultural story.
I've done that a couple of times.
You've had to do it sometimes. You have to. But so make the short. Get into post. Go to Paris to do the thing, and then come back. Should finish up post and basically come back here. In theory, my lease again until September. So, I want this to be the home, but there's some other big changes coming. So let me talk about this.
Sure.
First thing, you've been really, really nice to talk about how China works. Season 2, woohoo! We're going we had this 8-week crash course in China, the overview of all the basic stuff people need to know, where we talk about the East-West perspectives and try to find common ground and give reference points for people. Season 2 is going to be different in that Inge and I, it's going to be we're going to have bullet points, but a little more freeform, a little more dialogue-y, as opposed to with this one, we're heavily templated. We're really trying to hit a lot of points.
I have to say, it never felt stilted to me when I was listening.
Man.
It's like it just flows very nicely, and you know that I'm always kind of checking my own experience.
If it sucks, you're going to tell me.
And it's good stuff. So I think of course, it's cool that you're always trying to look how to improve the show, but you're operating at a pretty high level already.
Well, I'll give her the credit as well, and thank you for that, man. So with season 2, it's going to be again a little more conversational and more news of the day, right? So season 2 becomes more topical, and we're going to shift to twice a week. And I know I've redundant things I've said before, but one of the differences is we're going to bring on some special guests, and so sometimes it'll be a pre-record, that we drop in. Sometimes, but ideally, it will be somebody that we get on a call with us through the miracles of technology.
Because you were mentioning you and Ying,
we're both going to be in different places. Like I'm going to be in LA for this, January and into February, and then in Paris for a few weeks. But I'm going to be gone until mid-March if this is all lines up how it should. She's got a place here, but she's going to be other places too.
Right.
So we're going to be different places. So there's various technological things where we'll sound like, and we'll say, I'm here and she's there.
Are you going to get her one of these big ass mics? Or,
there's actually a smaller version of the big ass mic we have here. That's probably and there's ways that you can, there are a few different services where basically, we can plug in, we're plugged into my computer, I'm recording just in QuickTime, but there are ways to use this as your mic, with Skype or whatever. But then there are services where you have little software on both sides, or there's other ways to do it, where you record on your side, and then at the end of the call, it syncs it in the cloud, and then whoever's controlling the edit, in this case me, would get the file where they put both pieces together.
Right.
And so it's like native audio on both sides.
Yep.
And so the crappy Skype call is just us to see and hear each other and be in sync, but the actual recording is happening to where it's recording her on her mic and me on my mic. And so it sounds like as long as she's also in a quiet room, it sounds like you're, in the same place. So there's a few ways to tackle it technically. But in terms of the show, I'm going to want to have you on as a guest. We want to have you as a guest. And we'll talk about all kinds of stuff. It's going to be more topical. But the thing I want to talk about, so there's going to be hiatus. So
if you have me on the show, you're going to have a lot more of I'm shocked and have no official comment from you.
Yeah, and she's even adding some new ones to her repertoire. The one from the show from yesterday was, I don't think I have anything to add to that.
Yes.
that was the one that came flying out of her mouth yesterday.
She figured out your deal pretty quick, I think.
Pretty much. Well, we have to let each other be ourselves, and that's part of what makes it work for better or worse.
That's fun chemistry.
But so How China Works is going to go through the end of this year, right? So we're on week 7, right now. After we're done, then she's over here to record the show this release actually tonight. I mean, we're not ahead. We're doing day of at this point. Because of just life and schedule. But so next week, and then we're off the first week of January. We come back basically January 7th with season 2. And also the other news, Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom, some big changes to this show, some bigger changes. So this show is also going on hiatus. It'll go on hiatus next week. I have a couple more. I have another interview this week, and I have a bonus from the embassy event. I'm sorry you couldn't join us for the embassy event. That was a lot of fun. I didn't even bother to chase you.
Nobody bothers to chase me anymore.
I knew better.
Everybody just writes me off.
But we have that audio, and I have I have 3 more Big Fish that I know of, and possibly 4 if somebody says yes to something. But basically, that's also going to go on hiatus until the second week of January. I'm going to change Big Fish in this way. First, going back to 1 show a week.
Cool.
The typical month will be basically a solo show with, that meaning me, 2 regular interviews for like new people.
Yeah.
And then, of course, 1 Fretful Laowai Radio Hour with Kevin Geiger.
There's our 4th high five.
There's a 4th high five. That's okay, but there's a new hand though. So because this has been a lot of fun. Your friends like it. My friends like it. People. I've gotten good.
That whole audience of 5 people.
Everybody. 6 actually. No. Actually, this I won't brag. This show tracks about 20% higher than average.
Really?
So maybe that's just the one that your friends listen to.
Yes.
It's probably the difference.
It's my mom.
Like you're really like where your mom's listening in 12 podcasters. That's my boy. It all went wrong, but I love him.
Yeah.
But on the real note, there's little things. So where this is a great show. I love doing this show, and I'm going to continue to do it, as I just said. But I wrestled with that, honestly. Because, as what happens with many shows, the growth is plateaued on this. And I knew what would happen. It's a niche show, right? This show, if you like this show, hopefully you really like it, and thank you. If you kind of listen sometimes, that's fine, too. Some people only listen. I get that look in audience. If somebody's friend is on, you get all their people, and maybe they're happy to hear their friend, but they don't care overall about the format.
Right.
Some people are into this. I have friends who listen all the time. Or they're listeners who don't know me personally or don't know me previously, who they like the show for what the show is. And so thank you to everybody who's listening. But of course it's going to plateau at a certain point. I love doing it. But
you gotta stay fresh.
But along with all those changes, we talked about all this. And the reality is that as, this show is a reflection of, I'm making it about other people, but of course besides the fact that I'm doing it, I'm heavily invested.
It's your podcast.
Well, right. And so it reflects my reality. My reality, as I just said, is about to shift pretty seriously.
Yep.
And moving forward, I see it shifting very seriously. Yep. So I see this continuing to be like really my home base, but I plan to be gone probably half the year. Or more.
Right.
Next year,
especially want to avoid that tax hit.
Well, that is a bonus. I quickly put that together. I think I said that to you in like a voice message stream when oh my god. And
for those who are listening, China is moving to what they call international standard. I guess it is the international standard, where if you're here 183 days or more a year, you are officially a tax resident. Yay!
And so again, it's it's fine that's fair, but as we were talking about,
there are ramifications.
It's the burden of just meeting the standard is tricky, and everybody doesn't work on April 15th as your taxes. If you're a business person, if you're an expat, you get 6. If you're a migrant, if you're an expat, you get 6 extra months to file automatically. You also have all these other issues.
Yeah.
So
they also haven't super clearly rolled this out either. It's all still vague.
Totally vague.
Anyway.
So best bet is to avoid it. Meaning legally. Best bet is there's no contest.
Not to evade it.
Oh no,
but
exactly.
To avoid
To not the best way to win that game is not to play that game. So, but the reality is, that's a happy accident for me.
Yeah.
So with Big Fish, and also look. John August. There's the movie Big Fish that Tim Burton directed, John August wrote. They have revived that IP. Like there's a very successful Broadway stage show. It's gone to London, I believe. There's a touring company. And it's great. And when I did this, I was thinking of Big Fish in a Small Pond, but a play on that, and also Fish Out of Water. That was my 2 plays on the concept. And I know you're pretty smart. I know you got it. And everybody listening gets it. But my point is that I was not honestly thinking of the Big Fish IP because I've been on that set actually in like the country in Alabama.
So have you received a cease and desist order? Or?
No, not yet. But I love script notes. So it's funny because when I come and go with listening to their podcast because of time. And when I checked in on script notes several months ago, but I checked back in after not having time to listen for a while. And John August is talking he's talking so much about, here's all the developments we're doing with Big Fish and Big Fish. I'm like, and this is this guy's. This is a brand. So the point is, this is not my unique brand to the rest of the world. Big Fish in the Emerald Kingdom is my thing. It's not, legally there's no issues. There's no issues here.
Let me jump in very quickly here because I mentioned that Bonnie Bunny's baby brother used to be called Betty Bunny's baby brother.
Oh, okay.
The reason it changed at the last minute is that when I was uploading the ebook to iBooks, and then I did a search to see, is it up
Betty
yet?
Bunny?
Oh my God.
It's just a series. It's
the most series. It's the most prominent, I don't know, like an ex-Disney guy, but way more successful than myself.
Oh my gosh.
And like there's a whole series of these books. And
called Betty Bunny? Like, you're kidding me.
Why didn't I not research this?
Yeah,
so then I started looking, okay, I got to change this. Legally, I think I could still have it, but I look like the doofus who just didn't know.
Exactly.
Like, does this guy even know what's going on in the industry that he's trying to
I'm working on my great new TV series. I call it Fight Club. What?
So, yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, I got to think of some different B names, like Beyonce Bunny. No, that's not going to work.
Yeah, might have issues with that, too.
I started searching on iBooks just all the B words with Bunny.
Yeah.
And I turned up every B word was either already taken for a children's book, Bee Bunny, Butter Bunny, or porn. So
wow, talk about streams you don't want to cross. Actually,
Brenda Bunny was a porn. And I was like, oh my God.
Geez.
So finally I found Bonnie Bunny has miraculously not been taken.
Been unscathed.
There was one book called So-and-so the Bonnie Bunny, because Bonnie means, of course, beautiful. Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, so I can empathize with you in terms of like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
I just stepped
Great
right
idea.
on the...
And so again, I know that like legally it's cool. I mean, it's fine. But so the big issue is this. So I'm going to let you know, and I've been in consultations with.
Is this the thing you said you weren't going to tell me until we're on the air?
I know, and I'm looking at the time, and you need to message your buddy. You need to message your buddy that you're going to be 10 minutes late. But basically, I'm going to do a new show. I'm going to do a new show next year. And it's going to be the show that reflects the new reality because I wanted to do, it's the same very general concept as Big Fish, where it's people who have had some crazy journey. They physically moved, they've had some amazing journey to do something ambitious and usual or maybe crazy. In some way. Similar idea, but blown out to a global scale. And I want it to be, I love that I've been able to have all these awesome friends and colleagues and people that are more like peers. I'm going to start to aim kind of higher and get people that have like, PR reps and agents and managers. I want to start to get like world
gates that you have to go through.
I don't want to do all that, but that's kind of where the fruit is. And so the idea is to do a show that's hitting that. And I've been kicking around a lot of names, and I'm even debating as I'm sitting here wondering if I'm going to tell you, it's going to be called The Brendan Davis Show.
Awesome. That has a nice ring to it. It's better than calling it like Oprah because that's taken already.
That's taken. Totally. Yeah. It's funny. Well, look, I thought about, Ozymandias. I mean, like one of these words that's like some like really philosophically dense word that encapsulates a concept. It's the Brendan Davis Show.
Dude, the Brendan Davis Show. And then when you really make it big, it'll be Brendan. That's when you know you've made it.
It's totally not. What's funny, look, my favorite shows, there is The Tim Ferriss Show, right? And there are shows like WTF with Mark Maron. Almost nobody says, hey, did you see WTF? Did you hear the new Maron?
Yeah.
Right? Anna Faris has her show Unqualified.
Right.
People's like, did you hear that thing Anna Faris had on the other
Tonight
day?
on Brendan.
Hey, that sounds, okay. So.
Sounds good, eh?
So. And I wrestled with this because, you
thought it was like, it's too egotistical if I name it after me.
And the reality is, I want it to have the flexibility. There's no one word or phrase that I could think of otherwise that encapsulates it for what it is. So if I just have it have literally the most generic name possible, it's my podcast, and here's what it is,
and it travels with you.
Exactly. And then as far as how I pitch it out to potential guests and pitch it to a potential audience, here's what the show is. I'm able to frame it without the baggage of a promise of the name.
Right.
Right. And so that's really the idea.
That's
and
great.
So my buddy Ronald Paredes, my wonderful artist friend who used to be creative director at an ad agency that like in Venezuela, he did like the Apple accounts and stuff. Like he's worked with major brands, had a great conversation, like an ongoing like thread of conversations and calls with Ronald about this. I won't get my friend in trouble who it works at iHeart Media, formerly How Stuff Works, who's like a creative, like a high-end person there who's been consulting, and there's a long story there that I won't say on the mic. But I've had a lot of discussions with them, with formerly the How Stuff Works world, over the last year about podcasts and things, right? So then they got acquired by iHeart Media, and now, anyway, but my friend there, very helpful with fleshing out this concept as well as lovely feedback on how China works, which is very good, very positive.
So now you're telling him like, look, don't draw me looking like a big fit. Just draw me like me.
It's actually, I'll even tell you, there's a version. So it's going to be more, it's basically going to look more photoreal, but a drawing. There's this one shot of me, there's a headshot of me that is the one that's probably the best picture I'll ever have made, but I've got the short hair. So I've seen that. He's going to add, it's kind of a dramatic-y thing. I'm wearing a blue shirt. I'm also always wearing a blue shirt, but anyway, it's going to be that as the basis for the art, but then it's going to have the way my hair, because I'm growing the hair to the floor. It's what doesn't fall out.
That's right.
Is going to
Those
the floor.
of you who can't see it, it's...
I know, it's working on it. But so the idea is that I'm kind of locked into a look and a concept, although I plan to lose some weight. But I'm kind of locked into more and more who I am, and that's basically embracing the global aspect of reality.
I think that's smart.
And that I won't be bounded geographically, and I want this show to reflect that. So
it can still contain stuff that you've dealt with here, people you know here, but you're not bound by it anymore.
Totally. And again, I feel like I want to, and the big debate was, do I keep the Big Fish brand? The short answer is yes. Okay. But the debate was, do I keep that for this niche of things? Mm-hmm. I think so. I definitely do to start, right? Yeah. There may be some point where things merge or whatever, or the burden's too much.
You can keep it organic and see what happens.
But I plan to keep it organic and see what happens. Yeah, buddy.
Cool.
So that's the plan. I'll be back, I'm sure everybody's like got their calendar app for waiting for me to give you a date. I mean,
I was getting ready.
I'm not actually. You're just waiting. You got to get out of here. But I'll come back with specifics. I'm guessing that's going to launch early February.
That's awesome news.
Because thanks, man.
Really?
Thank you. I see that. I see that you're not just being nice.
No,
I appreciate that.
I'm really. It's really.
Do you like that idea? Does that?
I think it's fantastic, and it just felt when it came out of your mouth like that, like the Brendan Davis show. It just felt right.
Okay.
Just hearing it, it's like it sounds like something you'd want to check out.
Cool.
At least for me.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Well, and no matter what happens, you'll always have Paris, right?
Hey, I see what you did there. Kevin, thanks a lot, man. It's always a pleasure. I hope you guys have a really nice holiday.
Thank you, too. We should say Merry Christmas, everybody, right? Merry Christmas,
Merry Christmas,
everybody. Yeah. Happy holidays, all of that, Kwanzaa.
Yeah, happy Hanukkah. And,
anything we forgot? Anyway, all-inclusive holidays.
Happy, inclusive, non-believer.
Right, yeah.
Enjoy your December lighter traffic. Enjoy your happy colleagues and friends.
That's right. This shouldn't just be seasonal. This should be all year round.
All year round. Yeah. Well, it is with you, Kevin. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man. Cheers.